Namaste children. After a long gap, I am going to teach you, and in this session I am going to teach you a new prosa which is based on a folk play. Folk means it is nothing but in Kannada we used to call it as Janapada. That means the play which used to have some moral content, or else in other words what we used to call that one as morality. It is a prosa which is based on some moral aspect, but it is a nice prosa and you are going to enjoy this prosa. The title of the prosa is nothing but The Swan and the Princess. You know the bird swan. Princess means nothing but a small boy who is nothing but the son of a ruling king, or else a ruler, or else a king. In this particular prosa, we are going to see, we used to have the habit of looking after certain animals, especially parrot we used to have in our home, dogs we used to have, many more birds and animals we used to have in our home, and we used to show our love and affection towards those animals or those birds. But in return, that particular pet or else that particular bird is not going to show its love and affection towards all the members. Yeah, obviously it used to show, but for a particular individual, it used to show or else it used to adjust like anything. Here in this particular course, we are going to see how a swan is going to prove its love and affection, or else how the swan is going to show its love and affection towards a particular person. But before that, we are going to see why that swan is going to show its love and affection towards a particular person, and how the play or else the drama is going to end. Dear children, in this particular prosa, we are going to see certain characters. First, I will read the beginning of the prose itself. Then, in the next level itself, we will come to know about the characters. See there. Prose: The Swan and the Princess. Just what I said, it is nothing but a folk play. Who owns a bird or an animal? The one who catches it or the one who looks after it. That means catching forcefully or else catching with certain pressure or with some influence. Whether that person is going to be considered as the owner of the bird or else animal, or else, see there, the one who looks after it, or else the person who is going to show his care, his love and affection towards that animal or bird is going to be considered as its owner. It is a great question what we need to put ourselves before going to see this particular play. What author is telling here, whether the person who is going to catch an animal or bird forcefully, that person is going to be considered as the owner of that bird or animal, or else the person who is going to show his careness towards that particular animal or bird, or else who used to show his love and affection towards that bird or animal is going to be considered as the owner of that bird or animal. It is the question which we are seeing here. For the purpose of understanding this, read the following play which deals with an incident in the life of Siddhartha. What we need to do to know who is the real owner, or else who used to have the exact right. Right means R-I-G-H-T, right means who used to have the quality of ownership, whether the person who is going to catch the bird or else the person who is going to shower his love and affection on a particular bird or animal. For the purpose of understanding this one, what we need to do, we need to read this particular play which is based on an incident, a real life incident, and this incident happened in the life of Siddhartha. Siddhartha was nothing but Gautama Buddha. You people already know about Gautama Buddha, because Gautama Buddha was a king as well as a king's son. When he was a boy, at that time an incident took place in his life, and on the basis of that incident, we are going to come across a particular moral aspect. And here we are going to see that moral aspect in this particular play. As I said, in this play we are going to see certain characters. They used to come across this particular prose, and there we are going to see the dialogue delivery between each character. Then which characters we will see here? See there. The first one is nothing but Shuddhodana or Suddhodana, and Suddhodana was nothing but the king of Kapilavastu. Who is the king of Kapilavastu? The king of Kapilavastu was nothing but who? Suddhodana or else Shuddhodana. And Siddhartha, the prince of Kapilavastu. That means who is the son of Shuddhodana? Shuddhodana's son was nothing but Siddhartha, and Siddhartha is nothing but the prince of Kapilavastu. Devadatta, Siddhartha's cousin. The another important character in this prose is nothing but Devadatta, and Devadatta is nothing but the cousin brother of Siddhartha. And along with these three mainstream characters, we are going to see some more characters. They were nothing but the chief minister and 4 ministers of the king, as well as the guard. These are the important characters which we are going to see in this particular play. The first and foremost character was nothing but the king of Kapilavastu, Suddhodana, and the second most important character of this prose is nothing but, or else of this play is nothing but Siddhartha, who is the prince of Kapilavastu. And the third major character of this play is nothing but Devadatta, who is nothing but the cousin brother of Siddhartha. And lastly, we are going to see some more characters, and those characters were nothing but first one is the chief minister and 4 other ministers who used to be in the court of that Shuddhodana, and finally the god. These are the important characters which we are going to see in this play. Each character is going to deliver the dialogue, and this play used to continue on the basis of their communication or else on the basis of their dialogue delivery. Now we'll see how the play is going to start and where the king Suddhodana was sitting, and who used to come over there, and what sort of communication or else what sort of discussion used to take place in that king's court. That all thing we are going to see in the play now. See there. King Suddhodana is sitting on his throne. Dear children, here throne means nothing but the chair on which the royal person used to sit. Here the royal person is nothing but king. The person, that means king who used to sit on a chair, that particular multi-designed, good-looking chair is going to be considered or called as throne. And Suddhodana, the king of Kapilavastu, was sitting on his throne. His ministers are sitting around him. The chief minister is saying something to him. Just then the god enters and bows to the king. That means King Suddhodana was sitting on his throne in his court, and the chief minister as well as other 4 ministers used to sit in front of the king. Probably you might have observed in movies, if the king used to be sit on the dais, that means the king always used to have a platform on which the king's throne used to be there. On that particular throne, the king used to sit, and below that dais, the chief minister and the other ministers used to sit. Probably you might have observed in movies, in historical movies. In the same manner here, the king Suddhodana was sitting on his throne, and the chief minister was telling something to the king, and even the other ministers were accompanied during that time. The other ministers accompanied the king along with the chief minister, and they were in a serious conversation. Especially the chief minister was narrating, or the chief minister was telling something to the king. At the meantime, what happens, a particular god means, you people know, we used to call god for a person who used to stand at the door, or else stand police god, what we used to call, or else the night beating people used to be considered or called as the gods. That means they used to protect the civilians. Here in the same manner, in a king's court, outside some people used to stand and they are going to be addressed as gods because they used to look after the people who used to come over there, whether they need to enter the court. Court means nothing but enter the king's court, or else they need to wait there only for the king. Like that, a guard was also there and he enters when the king as well as the chief minister and other ministers engaged in a discussion. That God enters and what he is going to do, he is going to bow to the king. Bow means, dear children, it is nothing but bending himself and it symbolizes what sort of respect that particular God is having towards the king. He used to bend in front of the king and then he tells what he is going to tell. See there, God, long live king. Sir, Prince Devadatta wants to come in. King, bring him in. The god bows and goes out. It is the first dialogue delivery which we are going to see in this play. The god used to come and basically he used to bow for the purpose of showing his respect towards the king or respect for the king. Then immediately the god is going to tell long live king. It is nothing but the formality what the god used to show towards the king. And he addresses the king as a long live my lord, or else long live the king. And then he tells that, sir, Prince Devadatta wants to come in. And immediately the king tells to the god that, yes, you can bring him. Then immediately once again, the god shows his respect towards the king by bowing himself. That means he once again he used to bow to the king and then he moves out of the court. Then what happens? See there. Chief Minister, I wonder why Prince Devadatta wants to see the king at this time. Because it is a very crucial time, because when the court used to take place at that time, obviously the king's family members will never ever used to come and visit the king during that time. Because they used to have their own time in home or else in the kingdom or else in the palace. There they used to discuss all the things. Because here now Prince Devadatta wants to come and meet the king. This thing surprised the chief minister, and even the chief minister tells very clearly that why Prince Devadatta wants to meet the king, that too during this particular time when the court is running. That means when the discussion is taking place between the king and chief minister as well as with other ministers, why Prince Devadatta wants to enter during this particular time, that thing is itself surprised the chief minister. And when the chief minister tells like this, immediately the second minister, what he is going to tell? See that. Perhaps he wants to complain against someone. The god enters with Devadatta, both of them go to the king. That means when the chief minister tells why he is coming at this time, because it is not the time one who used to come to meet the king. But in such time, if Prince Devadatta is coming, means what may be the reason, for which reason he may be coming to meet the king. All these things comes in the mind of the chief minister, and when he expresses his opinion, immediately the second minister tells that probably he is coming to meet the king for the purpose of complaining someone. For the purpose of complaining on someone. He may have certain complaint over somebody. That's why he is coming to meet the king. When the second minister tells like this, at the meantime, the god who went outside to bring the Prince Devadatta inside, along with that god, even Prince Devadatta enters the court, and both of them used to show their respect to the king by bowing themselves. That means both of them used to bow in front of the king, and then they stands over there. Then what's going to happen? See there. King, what is it, Devadatta? Why you have to come to me at this time? Then immediately the king, also surprised probably, he is going to ask Prince Devadatta, why? What's the matter, Devadatta? Why you came during this time? What's the reason behind meeting me? particularly at this time. Because in surprise or else with certain astonishment, the king puts this question to Devadatta. For king's question, Devadatta is going to tell, sir, see there, sir, the prince will not give me my swan. I want justice from you. Then Devadatta tells that I need justice from you. Justice means I need. You people know in Kannada what we used to call, or else the synonym of justice is nothing but I need a clarification from you, and it should be a fair clarification for me in the name of justice, because prince is not ready to give my swan to me. So I came to you for the purpose of getting justice from you, and you need to give justice for me. This is what Devadatta tells to the king Shuddhodana, who is nothing but the king of Kapilavastu. Immediately, king smiling, be calm, Devadatta. Has Siddhartha taken your swan from you? Then immediately Shuddhodana tells by giving smile, because Siddhartha was nothing but king's son. So when he heard a complaint against his own son, at that time he started to smile at Devadatta, and even he makes Devadatta and by giving his smile to calm down, because Devadatta came over there with certain tension, with some sort of angriness. So the king tells what the king is going to tell to Devadatta. Devadatta, you don't tense yourself, don't be angry, be calm. This is what Shuddhodana tells to Devadatta. Has Siddhartha taken your swan from you? And even the king is going to ask Devadatta, has means is it true that Siddhartha has taken your swan? Are you telling me the truth? Why he took your swan? Nothing but the same meaning. Why Siddhartha took your swan? This is what the king is going to ask Devadatta. Then in return to that question, Devadatta, what he is going to tell? See that, Devadatta, yes sir, he has. I shot it and it fell on the ground near the prince. He picked it up and said he would not give it to me. Then immediately Devadatta tells that, yes my majesty, yes my king, yes my pardon. I shot a swan and unfortunately it fell very close to the prince. Here the prince is nothing but Siddhartha, and the prince took that swan and now he is not returning to me. That swan belongs to me, but the prince is not ready to return that swan to me. This is what Devadatta tells to the king. When Devadatta tells like this, then immediately the king Shuddhodana, what he is going to tell, see that, that's very naughty of Siddhartha. Naughty means here nothing but mischievous or else indecent, or else in other words nothing but rude. That means if what you are telling, if it is true, then it is nothing but a mischievous deed what Prince Siddhartha is doing, or else it is nothing but a prince's indecent or else rude behavior. It shows the indecent and rude behavior of the prince. This is what King Shuddhodana tells, or else King Shuddhodana comments about the behavior of his own son Siddhartha, who is nothing but the prince of Kapilavastu. When he comments like this means, when Devadatta complains on the prince, what was his complaint? Devadatta shot, or else Devadatta shoots a swan, and unfortunately the shot swan fell very close to Siddhartha, or else the prince Siddhartha, and by taking that fallen swan, the prince is not returning that swan to Devadatta, and the prince is telling now that the swan belongs to him. By hearing this, the king very clearly tells that if he is telling like that means it is nothing but an indecent or else a rude behavior of the prince. To the god, go and call him. The god goes and goes out. That means By telling like this, immediately the king orders the god to go and bring Siddhartha. When the king orders to bring Siddhartha, once again the god is going to bow to the king. By bowing, he moves away or else he goes out of the court. For which purpose he goes out of the court? For the purpose of bringing Siddhartha to the court. He used to go outside by obeying the order of the king Shuddhodana, the king of Kapilavastu. Third minister. In the beginning context, we came to know about the conversation which took place between the chief minister and the second minister. Now we are going to see third minister is going to talk. See that. Third minister softly to the fourth. That means because the king was there, even the king's the prince Siddhartha's cousin brother Devadatta was also there. Even the chief minister was also there. So with lowering his voice or else with too much of low voice, the third minister is going to tell something to the fourth minister. What the third minister is going to tell? See that. The prince is a good lad. He cannot do a thing that's wrong. The third minister very clearly tells to the fourth minister that the prince is not at all such type of lad. Lad means, dear children, nothing but boy. Our prince is not at all such kind of boy. He is a very good boy and he never ever used to involve in wrong things, or else he never ever used to do any sort of wrong deeds or mistakes are going to be taken place by our prince. It is known by each and everyone. This is what the third minister tells to the fourth minister. When the third minister used to share his opinion positively towards the prince, then what the fourth minister is going to tell? See that, I agree with you. Then immediately the fourth minister tells that, yes, what you said is absolutely true. Our prince will never ever used to involve in any wrong things, or else our prince will never ever used to do any mischievous things, or else indecent things, or else never ever he used to behave rudely with anyone else. I am going to agree with your opinion. This is what the fourth minister used to tell, or else this is the reply of the fourth minister for the opinion of third minister. Then the god enters the prince. The god enters with Prince Siddhartha, who has a white swan in his arms. Siddhartha goes to the king. When the conversation, or else when the third minister and the fourth minister were discussing themselves, discussion is going on in the court. At the meantime, the god is going to enter the court with Prince Siddhartha. And when Prince Siddhartha entered the court along with the god, at that time in his arms, a white swan was also entered the court, or else Siddhartha entered the court along with a white swan in his arms. And who has a white swan in his arms? Siddhartha goes to the king. After entering into the court, immediately Siddhartha is going to show his respect to his father, the king of Kapilavastu, Shuddhodana, by bowing himself. That means by bending himself. The god enters with Prince Siddhartha, who has a white swan in his arms. Siddhartha goes to the king. King Siddhartha, Devadatta says that you have taken his swan. Is that the swan which you took from him? When Siddhartha comes to the court and when he shows his respect by bowing himself to the king, immediately the king is going to put a question, or else the king started to interrogate Siddhartha, or else the king is going to question Siddhartha. What the king? Who is the king here? Nothing but Shuddhodana, who is nothing but the father of Prince Siddhartha. Father is questioning the son, or else father started interrogating his own son on the complaint of Devadatta. What father is going to ask, or else what King Shuddhodana is going to ask Siddhartha means, is Devadatta is telling that you have taken his swan, whether it is the same swan which you are having in your arms. This is what Shuddhodana asked Devadatta. sorry, Shuddhodana asked Siddhartha. When the king asks like this, then what Siddhartha is going to tell? See that, Your Highness, Devadatta has complained about this one, but it is not his one, it's mine. Then immediately Siddhartha tells His Highness or else Your Majesty. These are all the words which one uses to the king. Your Majesty, Your Highness, long live the king, God. These are all the words which one uses for the purpose of addressing the royal persons or else for the purpose of addressing a king. In the same manner here Siddhartha tells how he is going to address Your Highness. It is nothing but a very dignified word which we are going to use for a king. Devadatta has complained about this one, but it is not his one, it's mine. Then immediately Siddhartha tells to his father, Devadatta complained about a swan, that too about this swan. No, this swan never ever belongs to Devadatta, or else this swan is not the belonging of Devadatta. It's mine. This swan belongs to me. Is he complained about this swan? No, West. This swan belongs to me, not Devadatta. This is what Prince Siddhartha tells to the king. Immediately, Devadatta is going to reply for the response of Siddhartha. What he is going to tell? See that. No, Your Highness, it is not his, it is mine. I shot it with an arrow. Siddhartha is telling a lie. Then immediately Devadatta tells that, no, my Highness, what Siddhartha is telling is completely lie. Actually, in reality, it belongs to me. Why it belongs to me means I shot that swan with an arrow. With my arrow, I shot that swan, so that swan belongs to me. Siddhartha or else the prince is lying in front of you by telling that the swan belongs to him. But in reality, I shot that swan, so that swan belongs to me. This is what Devadatta tells to the king. King, be calm, Devadatta. You said that the swan is yours because you shot it. Is that right? Then immediately King Shuddhodana makes Devadatta to calm down, and then he asks him, you are telling that the swan belongs to you. Why? Because you shot that swan with an arrow. Am I right? Am I asking you right thing? Then immediately Devadatta is going to tell, yes sir, that's quite right. Then immediately Devadatta tells that, yes my dear king, what you said is right. What you are telling is somewhat right. Why I am telling the swan belongs to me means I shot that swan with an arrow, so that swan must belong to me. And what you said is right. It is the opinion or else it is the response which is given by Devadatta when the king is going to put a question for him. King, what do you say, Siddhartha? Why do you say that the swan is yours? Then immediately king asks his son, the prince Siddhartha, what you are going to say about the opinion of Devadatta. He clearly tells that the swan belongs to him as he shot that swan with an arrow. How you are going to tell that the swan belongs to you? This is what the king is going to ask Siddhartha. Why do you say that the swan is yours? That means on which grounds you are telling that the swan belongs to you? Tell me how the swan is going to be yours. This is what the king asks the prince Siddhartha. Siddhartha, Your Majesty, Devadatta shot this swan, but I saved its life. That's why it's mine. Then immediately he tells that, Your Majesty, that means nothing but, as I said, they are nothing but the respectful words which we are going to use for the dignified person. And here Prince Siddhartha is showing his respect by addressing the king as Your Majesty. What he tells, Your Majesty, see, Devadatta shot this swan, but I saved its life. That is why it's mine. 100% what Devadatta is telling is right. He shot the swan, whereas I saved the life of that swan. That is why the swan belongs to me. Devadatta tried to kill that swan, but I secured the life of that swan. I saved the life of that swan. On the basis of that right, I am telling that the swan belongs to me. So this swan is mine. It's mine. This is what king, or sorry, the prince Siddhartha tells to the king. Dear children, I am going to stop this session here, and in my next session we will study how this conversation is going to end, or else how it is going to see its end. How the king, or else how the swan itself is going to conclude the play by selecting its own. We will study this concept in our next session. Thank you, dear children. And the HF of this particular session is just I said certain meanings, just like lad, naughty, majesty, bow. You need to write meaning of these words, or else a synonym of these words in your HF book. Thank you, dear children.